Hey there, and welcome to this episode of the Menopause Health Podcast. I'm Susan Sly, your host, and today we are going to dive into an issue that a lot of people are not discussing in terms of menopause, and that is mental health. Yes, we talk about hot flashes, we talk about night sweats, weight gain, and all of those things, but what about anxiety? What about depression? What about when a surgery puts us into menopause and we don't have the support? And my guest today is absolutely amazing. She is a mental health advisor to the Minister of Health in Canada. She is a peer-to-peer mental health trainer. She is also the community mental health advisor to the Pause Technologies. And so I'm so excited for you to hear this episode where we're going to talk about what it's like to go into surgery as a young woman, to not have the support on the other side, to end up literally in bed looking for a reason to just live every single day, and the courage to address mental health. And so with that, I want to welcome you to this episode with the amazing Brooke Chambers.
Welcome to the Menopause Health Podcast, your go-to resource for practical advice brought to you by credentialed health professionals and industry experts. Here is your host, Susan Sly.
Well, Brooke, welcome to the Menopause Health Podcast. And it's fun to be able to catch up with you because, gosh, we go back a very, very long time to 1980s, running track at York University. And here we are now, badass women in our 50s, talking about navigating menopause. So thanks for being here.
Susan, I wouldn't be anywhere else. Whenever you're doing a project that I can be involved with and help in some way, I want to be there. You have done so much for women, but you've done so much for me.
Well, thank you.
I've learned a lot from you, and you helped me turn around my health. I think there's lots I didn't say to you because it's been a long time.
Yeah. And Brooke, it's amazing to that point. And thank you so much for that, that as women, we don't know who's watching. And it isn't always something we're saying. Sometimes it's how we're leading by example. And you're here today. We're talking about mental health because you have led by example. You've been so open about your journey to the point where the Minister of Health in Canada took notice, and you are a noted advisor. You are a community mental health advocate. And when we think about menopause, often there's the hot flashes, night sweats, there's weight gain, but the mental health piece is not something, in my personal opinion, that's being spoken about yet, with the exception of things like gaslighting. But could you talk about your menopause journey? When did it start for you?
Honestly, I was 34, and it was quite an experience. I was a financial advisor at the time, and I was having really heavy periods that wouldn't stop. And they just kept coming, and it went on for at least 12 months of severe bleeding and incredible pain. And so I had to seek out help because I'm literally at work saying, oh my goodness, I'm sitting in my chair and I might have bled right through my clothes and had to leave and go home. And I worked with all men. I've always usually worked with men, being a former police officer before going into finance. And so I was just in search of help. And I was in a severe depression. At the same time, I'm a single mother looking after my daughter. And it was just kind of one of the worst times in my life. So when I went to see the doctor, I found out I had fibroids. And what I have learned over time is fibroids is more common for Black women. than any other woman. And there was many people in my family that have gone through this scenario. So the doctor says to me, you have no choice. If you want to save your life, we have to do a hysterectomy. So I opted to have an emergency hysterectomy, which was an easy decision for me. It's an easy decision because I knew I didn't want to have more children. And I also just needed the pain to stop. And I wanted the periods to stop. So when I go into that surgery, you sign a document, you say, all of these things, I'm okay with how it happens. And guess what? Surgery is supposed to be common, or that surgery is common, but not common. There's no surgery that really might not go well. So on this table, my heart stopped while I was on the table. I was told that after I woke up in pain with no medication to help me get through it. So the journey of having a hysterectomy turned into many twists and turns in my life. The depression kept coming. It didn't get better, it got worse. Yes, my period stopped. But then I'm on all of this medication, and the medication was causing more problems. And I didn't actually heal properly. It literally took me 7 years before I could do a sit-up again, because I had so many problems with my abdomen. So what they did is they left my ovaries. And, if you take out your ovaries, your hormones get 100% worse. I'm glad they left my ovaries, but then the cysts start coming on my ovaries. So I'm dealing with having cysts, which is a lot of pain. I'm dealing with depression. And that's the moment that I just cannot go back to work. I'm trying to go back to work, but I can't go back to work. So I was actually forced to be off on disability for a very long time. Like, we're talking decade, like over a decade. And that's when I reached out to you somewhere in that time frame, saying, is there anything that you can help me with, knowing that you had so much knowledge around nutrition. And I had been on 50 different medications over the span of 5 to 7 years, I'd say. And every medication caused me side effects, to the point of I had hair and and then I didn't. So how I came to this hairdo was because my hair fell out. How I came to looking at my health in a different way was because of all of the symptoms I'm going through. But what wasn't said to me was these could be menopausal symptoms, because during that time I'm diagnosed with bipolar at the same time. So I was always trying to figure out, what is this really? Mm-hmm. And I remember asking you, like, do you have any idea? So my health journey has been a struggle. And I also remember not having any connection to anybody, not having a physical connection, not wanting sex, even though I had, a significant partner at the time. I didn't care for sex. I didn't care about much. I remember thinking, it's okay if I'm not here, because I had no feelings. I wasn't suicidal. I was just, I don't really care about anything anymore. And the only thing I can do is just get out of bed, if I could do that, and look after my daughter. So I tried to make sure to get out of bed so she could go to school and I could be there for her at the end of the day. So my life went like that for such a long time, Susan. depression, 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 depression. And then came all these other symptoms. And then I got hot flashes, and then I wasn't sleeping. And, I'm known for wearing black, and today I'm wearing green. And I had said to Tisha before we came on this call, today I'm going to wear a color. And I know I look good in color, and I like color, but you'll always see me in black because I sweat a lot.
Yeah.
I sweat a lot. I just do. And so, carrying clothes in my car all the time, just in case I have to make a clothes change. It doesn't happen as much as it used to, but it is better. But I'm almost 55. So we're talking a 20-year span of symptoms of menopause. Not having a period, but still having my ovaries, right? So it's, and I'm not the only one, that I know. My mother went through the same thing, and I watched her go through it. Didn't really understand why she was depressed, but I was a child who watched a woman go through depression, and then I have a child who watches her mother go through depression.
Yeah. And it's, Brooke, that I'm thinking about right now, and I'm so grateful that you're talking about the hysterectomy at age 34, because there's this menopause myth that women in menopause, they're our age, they're in their 50s. There are so many young women who message me, come up to me, and they're in their 30s, and they're saying, I'm thinking about having a hysterectomy because I have, polycystic ovarian syndrome, or I have a cancer risk, and I don't know if I should do it. And they're getting a lot of education about the physical surgery and the post-op, but they're not getting the menopause education. And I'd love to say things have evolved in the last 20 years, but they haven't necessarily, right? And if you could go back to your 34-year-old self and give suggestions for what questions you would have asked differently, knowing the journey, what are some questions you would have asked?
I did ask this question, which I still say everyone should ask. Is there another way for me to be healthy besides having this surgery? Are you absolutely sure this is the only way forward for me? And the doctors, and get more than one opinion. That's another thing. Read, ask questions, ask doctors for who else has done this, and let me talk to them. That's another thing. But they were so sure that if they removed the fibroids, they were going to damage the uterus because they were so huge and so big. Your uterus will be no good to you. And we'll still have to remove these fibroids because there's no other alternative for you in this moment at this time, based on everything that we know. Because I'm asking a professional who's been doing this for 30 some odd years. And to my knowledge, I had the best doctor that I could possibly have within my power and the time span. Now I could have opted to say no, but I was losing blood at such an alarming rate that I was fainting and I was falling and I had no energy. And just to walk up the stairs, I had to sit down on step number 3. I did not have it in me, and I was fed up And I was just done because it's a long time to go like that, and try and stay at work.
Yeah.
You know,
And what we mentioned track, but people don't know about your experience with law enforcement, being a police officer, the fitness tests, how you scored in those tests. I mean, we're talking about this amazing, fit, strong woman whose body starts controlling her as opposed to vice versa. Because,
yeah,
back in the track days, you have a coach and the coach tells you, this is the workout you're going to do, and this is what you should eat. And, this is,
yes.
and we have all of these benchmarks. And I think this is a hypothesis, and it'll be really interesting to research this. But sometimes as women who were athletes, and you and I share that too, I went into law enforcement, as many people know, but because we are so used to putting up with pain and pushing through the hard workout and pushing through the obstacle course and pushing, do you think that was a hindrance or a help in you finally starting to get to the point where you said, enough's enough, I don't want to live like this anymore?
Wow, that's a great question, because I absolutely push my body. I still push my body. Um, and yes, the fact that I can endure a lot of pain, I still do to this day, because I have so many other issues. But they all started as a result of being a woman and having reproductive organs, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
Because when I was running track, here's the thing: the first day of my period was a day off. I could not run. I could not do anything. I was on the ground, rolling on the ground, holding my abdomen in so much pain. And I had to go to the hospital to get a shot of Demerol just to survive my own periods, which started at age 12. And so I was like that the whole time. And when I became a police officer, that was my experience there as well. So one day I'd look amazing and be fine, and everyone's like, and the next day I'd call in sick. I was constantly calling in sick to school. I was calling in sick to work. And one day, the police officers that were on my shift didn't believe I was ill and came to my house, knocked on the door. I was shocked. I'm like, we just wanted to see if you're actually sick. I know they've never done that for anybody else. At the time, I was one of maybe three women officers working. I was the only Black officer in the Ontario Provincial Police at that time. And the men were not supportive in any kind of way for so many different reasons. Just that, one, I'm a woman and I'm going through these things. And putting on a gun belt with pain is the worst thing ever. Right? It, like, I don't even know how I did it. I look back, I don't even know how I did that job. So pushing through pain, I did it. And I did it at my detriment, for sure, because I should have stopped way before. I should have, I did ask for help, but I also never got it, and I didn't know where to go.
Yeah.
I really didn't know. It was just me.
And in those days too, I can't speak to how it might have changed. I was one of I think it was 5 female officers to go into federal corrections in Canada. And I didn't even talk about it for a long time because of the experience that I had. But even sharing on the show, someone's gonna say something, but to not only not be supported, but to be considered that you're somehow less than, that you're somehow a detriment. And, you know, and sometimes honestly, the other officers were worse than inmates or offenders, because there was so not only lack of support, but criticism, resentment. And I always think, Brooke, about the concept of what women will endure, and some women will not endure it. And I have a ton of respect for them. And then there are other women who, maybe because of the color of our skin, or maybe because we were athletes, it's just like, we'll push and we'll push and we'll push until we literally fall over. And you made a decision, a bold decision, to say, I'm going to start to get open about this. I'm not going to suffer in silence anymore. I'm going to talk about mental health. I am going to be open about my journey. And that has helped so many people by your decision to be bold. And what was that defining moment for you when you said, you know what, I am going to give this a voice?
Contemplation for many years, first of all. My contemplation had started from before I'm in my 30s, knowing I have mental health issues, not knowing what it was, not knowing what to call it, not understanding. So I'm in deep contemplation. But once I'm actually told, by the way, you have bipolar, and, you know, you're in menopause, at 34 years old, because that came in the same year. So I was quiet. I didn't say a word. I was too scared to say anything, because I was already in a place of being the only Black woman everywhere I went. And so it was my mother, who knew all things, who always hold my hand.
She's an amazing, as an aside, sorry for interrupting, shout out Bernice, shout out Mama Bernice, the queen. Like, seriously, I have to give her a shout out. Sorry, I love Bernice.
Yeah, you never know who you're born to or the family you're born in. And I'm born into a family that I was incredibly fortunate to have the grandparents that I did, to have the parents I did, my father included, and my mom, because my father was at my bedside through some of these surgeries, along with my mother. By that time, they had divorced, but they cared so deeply. And my mother understood it because she had gone through it. So when you have someone that you can talk to that understands, and it happens to your mother, like, that's amazing. So she always encouraged me, because she is a speaker. She's a darn good speaker. And she tells the story of our family history, which is hockey. My grandfather was a hockey player in the 40s. He was a semi-pro for 17 years. He got paid to play the game, but never actually made the NHL, even though he was the best. So my mother tells the story of my grandfather, Herb Carnegie, and my mother is Bernice Carnegie. And she's been speaking my whole life, and she's incredible. So she says to me, I have to go to Ottawa. I have to speak in Ottawa at Parliament Hill. And I said, oh, okay. And this isn't unusual, because this is what she does, and this is what my life has looked like. So, Brooke, will you drive me? I don't want to drive myself. And I'm thinking, I don't want to drive my mom to Ottawa on a snowy day from Whitby, which is a 4-hour drive, and it's the winter time, it's February. But I reluctantly say I will do it, even though I'm laying in bed and I'm exhausted, I'm tired, which is my norm. She says, no, just get out of bed and come with me. So I pack my bag, I go to Ottawa, I get there, and she says, by the way, I've signed you up to speak about mental health. And I went, what?
I thought
I don't want to speak about it. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? So what happens is there's this group of people that I know from Toronto and surrounding, and all of us are Black, from across Canada. And we're talking about the issues that affect Black people within Canada. And one of those things was mental health. It was on the table. So I get called in, Brooke Chambers, will you go to this room? An NDP leader, Jasmeet Singh, was leading the group, right? I'm sitting around this table, everybody has a mic. It's quite a very amazing experience. I'm scared. I don't know what to say because I'm sitting with politicians, lawyers, policy analysts, you name it. And I'm out of my groove. I've been laying in bed for so long. But by the time they get to me and say, who are you and why are you here? The only thing I could say was, Brooke Chambers, former police officer with the OPP, Herb Carnegie's granddaughter, because people knew who he was, and I have bipolar. That's what came out of my mouth. And in that moment, the entire room changed because we were speaking about mental health, but nobody was really speaking about mental health. And I was the only person saying, listen, I have an issue and the issue is really big. So let me just tell you what I have. And let's see if we can change the tone of the conversation and just get real. So we got real with the conversation, and everybody that went next came out with something different about how they introduced themselves, rather than, hey, I'm a lawyer from blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. What happened was the Minister of Health policy analyst was in the room. She says to me, we have to talk. So of course I'm like, sure, let's talk. So we have this amazing conversation the next day. She says, the minister wants to meet you. And I'm like, really? Are you serious? Anyways, so I'm just going with the flow, Susan. Just going with the flow. What else can I do? When the minister says they want to talk to you, say, sure, why not? I don't know what this conversation is going to be. I don't know how I can help, but why not have the conversation? So of course my mother comes with me. And there were some other Black women in the room that were talking about, and I have to say very specifically, period poverty. This is what they brought up. When you don't have enough money to purchase pads and tampons. Mm-hmm. That's what they brought up to the table. So they were very specific about women's issues, and had master's degrees and were working towards their doctorates. So we're all in this room talking to the Minister of Health. And each one of us just told a story as if I'm, telling you. And in that moment, she said, you know what, I really need you. I need the information you have to make Canada a better place for the mental health of Black people, the mental health of Black women. There's so much we don't know. So all I did was say, yes, sure. What is it you want? And all the yeses led me to this day right now. And so I just kept talking. And next thing you know, I find myself people calling saying, listen, can you share your story? And I understand how important it is to share a story. But it's therapeutic to me. It helped me along my journey. And to become a peer supporter, because that's what I'd call myself, is just someone who has lived experience that supports other people going through similar experiences, where you can actually share stories, give it, not necessarily give advice, but your story might lead someone down a path that they can recognize a new path for themselves, and that you can be well. And what does wellness look like? It looks different for everybody. I'm on a journey of, I I have not conquered my mental health challenges. But what I have conquered is my self-stigma of my mental health challenges.
Mhm.
And when you stigmatize yourself, you make your illness worse. When you can open up and speak to people about it when appropriate, we don't want to blurb everything in a moment, but when we're appropriately speaking about what it is we have on our heart to share, it may help others. And this is what I saw my grandfather do, being a Black hockey player and sharing his story of racism, and my mother sharing her story as a Black woman, and the story of our family. And so I watched this happen over and over and over and over. And I watched you do it over and over and over and over. And I just happened to be in circles of people that started from track, literally, who have done amazing things in life and are all speaking to make the world better. So if I can do something and what I'm saying helps somebody, great, because I know I'm helping myself. But the first place you have to start is awareness of yourself and where you're at. You have to literally look at yourself and say, this is where I'm at, and this is real. And it's okay that I'm here, but is it okay for me to stay here? Because the biggest thing was, I do not want my daughter to remember me in bed for the rest of my life. That was a big deal for me. My daughter kept me alive.
And your daughter is
So
amazing. Kylie's amazing, like coming from this line of powerful women. And Brooke, as you were sharing that story, I was smiling on the inside because it was like, you don't say no to Mama Bernice. So if Mama Bernice wants you to drive her from Oshawa to Ottawa, you're like, yes, ma'am, let's go. Brooke's mom is, how tall is Bernice?
5'2", maybe 5'1", because I know she shrunk a little bit. We all tower over her, that's for sure. She's a little pack of, she's got so much energy. Like, I just don't, I'm like, why are you healthier than me? And you're like 78. Like, it blows my mind.
So as an aside with Brooke's story, I was like, I could just imagine, and I love the how you really shared. I felt like I was right there at that table with you about being there and you coming up, what's next? I can only imagine in your mind just knowing you going, Mom, like, why?
Yeah.
did you-"
She got me that day. She got me. And without my mother, I wouldn't be here. Without my daughter, I wouldn't be here. My family is everything.
And
And
you have
support.
Yeah, you have used that as such a springboard, Brooke, for what you're doing now. And Brooke at the Pause is our community mental health advisor. And when this season 1 of the show is released, the thing I will say, we can't disclose yet about our conversational AI, but Brooke has the thing I will say is before we have released the AI, Brooke has gone in, and you don't have to disclose too much, but asking tough questions. I know Nate on the data science team was like, oh my gosh, Brooke's amazing. She asked questions I didn't even think to ask. But Brooke, maybe tease a little bit what that experience was like.
Well, as I have said to the team, I am not a techie. However, I am blown away by what technology can do. And that, you can ask a question and get an answer. The thing is, are you getting an answer that supports you? Because sometimes the answer needs to be more broadly based. And as I see technology, and actually all things, women are missing from the table of technology on a whole, of the systems that were created, the businesses that were created. They're created by men. They were created specifically by white men, most often, under colonialistic circumstances. So I'm not reflected very often. And I walk into spaces where I'm not reflected very often. And I did it because that's what I did. I don't have a problem. I have a family of first, you did this first, you did this first, you did this first. And as I know you have a family, I did this first, I did this first, right? That's how it went. And so it's the norm in our eyes, but the most amazing thing happens when I walk into a room and everybody is Black. It makes my heart sing. And that we have different conversations because we have a different experience. And when you walk into a room of women, you have a different experience than when you walk into a room with a group of men. John Gray definitely got it right. Men are from Mars, women from Venus. Which way did it go?
Yep, that's right.
right. Because I remember having a great conversation with him. And he had introduced us a long time ago. But the representation of what isn't there, and that's what I was saying tonight. What isn't here that we do not know because the stories are not written, they're not told yet. And as they are being told, the AI can only get better. So we need the diversity of thoughts of so many different people and experiences. Because even though menopause we have similar symptoms, they show up differently. And they show up at different times. So when I'm going to, stop having my eggs dropping, which I'm sure I'm pretty close to, everybody is different when that happens. We can never say, because women have gotten pregnant way past their 50s. It's happened. It's real. Like, try not to, even though you might not have a period and you think you can't get pregnant. Well, yes, you can. It's possible. I mean, I know I can't. That's like something I'll never say again. But our experiences need to be said. And that's the amazing thing about what we are doing here, what you've created here, is going to help so many people who are alone. Especially, like, I don't have anybody to talk to, but I can talk to the AI at this time. and have a conversation of understanding, and it means something because I'm getting somewhere. I'm at least being directed in a to something, to a resource, to a doctor, to a nurse, whoever it might be, as well as I have better understanding of my own symptoms so I can have awareness. Because the first thing in mental health is you have to have awareness. You need to take self-responsibility. You need care and you need support. If you have those 4 quadrants taken care of, you're going to be better than you were.
Mm.
How long, how intense, nobody can say, because recovery looks different to everybody. And we may never be what we were, but I would want us to age gracefully and accept that we do age, but do it well. I mean, we're all going to die and we all not going to be here. Like, this is a fact, and we're all going to go through menopause when you have no choice. This is how it's done. You have no choice. You have to accept this. How you do it is a whole nother thing.
Mm. That is the mic drop right there, how you do it. And I love what you said to Brooke, like there's this, you have to take the action, there's the awareness, and it can feel really lonely. And the other night, it's 2 a.m. I was up, I had a hot flash, and I'm on bioidentical hormones, but I was like so intense. And I got really upset about it. And then I couldn't sleep. And I was like, where is our technology? Because I would love to have a chat right now. Like I was, and to be able to know that whatever time of day that is, whether it's 2 a.m. or whatever it is, that sense of feeling lonely is very real, but to always know you're never alone. I think that part is, what we're striving for and what we're building is like, you're never alone. You don't have to go through this alone. And while you're getting that next level of support, whether it's physical health, mental health, that you're not alone. And that, it doesn't have to be that way. And we get to define it. I look at Bernice and she keeps defining it at every stage of, who she is and what she's doing in the world. And I see that with you too. And that, okay, so we may never, well, I never say never. We ran pretty fast. We were fast. But like that, it's a choice. If I was going to train like that again, maybe I'd be as fast. I don't know. There was the Mary Hannah in the Olympics, 69 years old. I'm like, you go, girl. Like, seriously. Right.
Susan, as it's never too late to do anything. I have seen this over and over and over again, that when you make a decision to be better than you are, you can be better than you are. How far you go is up to you. But you're not competing with anybody. This is a you versus you scenario. I can only look back at myself and say I was better than I was 10 years ago. So when I look and I get to 65, I want to say I am better at 65 than I am going into my 55th year. And I'm okay with the wrinkles as they start to come. And I'm fortunate that I have great genes in my family. I just do. So, hey, I'm okay with my grays, but I'm not okay to feel bad and feel sick. And so I work on that every day. I say, what's the one thing you have to do today to feel better? That's it. And it might be a walk. Actually, it usually is. A walk in nature makes all the difference for me. And it's one of those things I say to people, do that. And the other thing that I thought was genius that you got me doing was write 10 gratitudes a day. It'll change your life.
Yeah. Well, Brooke, I can't thank you enough for being here, and for everyone listening, watching. Drop comments below. Make sure you're subscribing to the show. Brooke's social media is in our show notes. And Brooke, firstly, in front of the entire world, I just love you. And for those who cannot see Brooke, Brooke has got this amazing green top on, and I'm like, girl, yes, I used to wear all black too because I was sweating through it. And I'm like, no, you know what? That it looks amazing and you are glowing. And so if you're just listening to the show, go check out the YouTube shorts, the reels and stuff. You have to see. Brooke is radiating. And Brooke, to me, you are ageless. And we're still the girls that our claim to fame is Ben Johnson asked us both out the sprinter, not at the same time.
And Ben is back. He was on the TV. He has a book, and I say good for him.
Good for Ben. He'll never go through menopause, though.
No, he will not. No, he won't. No. Susan, it's been awesome to be here with you. Thanks for having me on your show. I have been an avid listener of the many things that you have put up over the years. And like I said, they've helped me immensely and helped a lot of other people. So keep doing what you do because we need you.
Well, thank you. Thank you, my friends. And with that, I want to send so much love to everyone listening to this show. Make sure you check out the previous episodes of season 1 and the next episode. So with that, thanks again, Brookie, for being here. Love you. And I will see everyone in the next episode of the Menopause Health Podcast.
This Menopause Health Podcast is brought to you by The Pause Technologies. To find out more, visit thepause.ai and follow us on your favorite social media channels. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, share the show, and connect with us. We will see you in the next episode.